everyone, I'm Kate Andrews, and here's a look at what is going on this week in the news. And we begin from around the country. California legislators have introduced assisted suicide legislation modeled on Oregon's assisted suicide law. California SB 128 would allow doctors to prescribe a lethal dose of medication to terminally ill patients who want to commit suicide. In 2006 and 2007, similar legislation was defeated in California. Assisted suicide legislation is receiving renewed support after the heartbreaking story of Brittany Maynard, a young woman with brain cancer who moved from San Francisco to Oregon to end her own life November 1st. Data from Oregon's 1997 law show that 2 of the top 5 reasons people choose assisted suicide are feeling like a burden and a fear of loss of control. There have been more than 100 attempts to legalize assisted suicide in the past 20 years, but only 3 states have legalized it. Those are Oregon, Washington, and Vermont. The Catholic Church opposes assisted suicide because of its respect for the sanctity of life from conception to natural death. In news from the Vatican, Pope Francis announced he will visit Bosnia-Herzegovina. From Reports has more.
The Pope made a surprise announcement at the end of the Angelus in St. Peter's Square that he would be traveling to the peripheries of Europe during another trip.
Che sabato 6 giugno, a Dio piacendo, mi recherò a Sarajevo, capitale della Bosnia ed Herzegovina.
He said his goal is to promote reconciliation between Orthodox Serbs, Catholic Croats, and Bosnian Muslims in a place where the wounds of war are still raw.
Vi chiedo fin d'ora di pregare affinché la mia visita a quelle care popolazioni sia di incoraggiamento per I fedeli cattolici, susciti fermenti di bene e contribuisca al consolidamento della fraternità, della pace.
The trip will last only one day, just as John Paul II's 2003 visit did. It will be Francis's 8th international trip and 4th visit to Europe. The final dates of his trips to Latin America in July, the United States in September, and Africa in November or December have yet to be announced.
The next day, February 2nd, Pope Francis celebrated Mass in St. Peter's Basilica for the Feast of the Presentation of the Lord. The feast is also known as Candlemas and the World Day for Consecrated Life. This year is also the Year of Consecrated Life. The Mass began with dozens of sisters, brothers, and priests carrying candles into the Basilica ahead of the Pope. In his homily, His Holiness said that total obedience to God's will brings wisdom, joy, and hope. The Pope said Jesus came to follow the Father's will. He said that living a consecrated life means following the same path as Jesus, but also being obedient to their religious community, superiors, their orders, rule, and to the Church. He asked that religious men and women continue to guide people to God, but to also let themselves be guided. In news from around the world, the Catholic bishops of El Salvador have announced plans to dialogue with the country's gangs. The proposal was encouraged by Pope Francis and comes 2 weeks after several gang leaders declared a ceasefire. Earlier attempts at dialogue involving church leaders have failed, and until the February 1st announcement, Catholic leaders had publicly pulled back from supporting dialogue with the gangs. But behind the scenes, they quietly worked with several leaders of the country's evangelical churches, which have a significant outreach in the prisons. That effort paid off January 26 when gang leaders announced that they had agreed to a ceasefire, what they called a unilateral gesture of goodwill, designed to reduce the violence. The National Civilian Police reported that between January 1st and 17th, there was an average of 14.1 murders per day in El Salvador. Between January 18th and 29th, the average dropped to 7.6 murders a day. On January 22nd, no murders were reported in the entire country, something that has not occurred for more than a year. And finally in the news, the focus will be on women during the Pontifical Council for Culture's upcoming plenary assembly. A document outlining the theme was published in late January. 4 women involved in writing it joined Cardinal Gianfranco Ravasi, Council President, as a news conference February 2nd at the Vatican. Rome Reports has the details.
The Pontifical Council for Culture studied the role women play in society and in the Church. For a year, several women took part in the research. Now the results will be the starting point of a 3-day discussion, as this Vatican Council will celebrate its plenary assembly under the theme, Women's Cultures, Equality and Difference.
Non si tratta tanto.
We won't discuss women's culture in itself, but rather the way women see it. Women have a specific way of understanding the world that has its own characteristics.
During the 3-day meeting, the members of the council will try to track these characteristics. In particular, they will talk about the differences between men and women and how they can help each other avoid uniformity.
Non è che c'è un modello maschile al quale
Women don't have to imitate the male model of doing things. There are two models that together are important. That is, parity is achieved by maintaining diversity.
Topics such as the creativity of women will also be addressed, and they will also discuss more contemporary issues like plastic surgery.
Se uno altera
I can't understand why people criticize a woman who changes her physical appearance if it's making her uncomfortable and miserable. However, that is different from having a surgery so that you look the way a woman should look. Who decides that? Who wants it? When we talk about plastic surgery that way, we have a similar debate to that of the burqa.
The Pontifical Council for Culture plans to create a permanent commission that will continue its research on the specific contributions of women to the church and society.
That is all the information we have for you at this time. I'm Kate Andrews. Don't forget, you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week with Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV Network.